Look at what the Prime Minister's up to this week. He is going off to Saudi Arabia, urging them to turn on the oil taps as we turn away from Russia. One of your colleagues, Julian Lewis, Conservative MP, says, don't create, I'm quoting, a dependency on another unreliable and sometimes hostile regime. Is there a danger there, Scott?
Well, we have a long-established security relationship with Saudi Arabia, a lot of shared economic interests as well. That relationship will continue going forward. I think the PM's visit is very timely in terms of making sure our dependence on, for example, Russian oil and that from foreign states abates. But I think Julian makes a very clear point here, and that is in terms of energy security directly within our own country. And of course, over the last 20 years, I think governments, both red and blue, have failed on the point of making sure we have a long-term energy supply and foster our own sources of domestic energy. So Julian's correct in that aspect. And it's interesting to see there's actually an urgent question today on fracking in the House of Commons as well. So whether it be fracking or other sources of domestic supply, North Sea oil, for example, I do think we have to do far more on a cross-party basis to think strategically about how we can end our dependence on oil and gas abroad, whether indeed that be Russian or from the Middle East.
There's got to be some really hard decisions, because in the budget, what you know is that, for example, 15 to 20% of our energy use could come from energy from waste, and that means, instead of throwing your waste into holes in the ground or whatever, you use it to burn it for energy. And in modern equipment, as soon as you mention energy from waste to an MP, they say we can't have it here. It's dreadful. So we've got to look at all the ways we get energy, and of course the technology and the science is called nuclear fusion. After all those years of experimenting, pushing nuclear fusion, billions of pounds, the breakthrough is coming. So, and hydrogen's coming. We've got to be absolutely on the front of this.
And you're both being very decent and being very consensual. But Scott mentioned fracking, and I suspect there's going to be no cross-party consensus when it comes to fracking.
No, I don't know. I've always believed in evidence-based policy. Let's look at the science. It's all very well for people in this country to say we won't frack, but does that mean that we exploit the Amazonian rainforest, that we import wood as we do in the Drax in Yorkshire? This is a very complicated world in terms of energy, and we've got to get rid of our historic prejudices and look at the science and look at the overall impact on climate change.
Very pragmatic from you, Barry. I don't think you're in a majority in the Labour Party. Tell me I'm wrong.
I think you're wrong. I think we all, because we've all.
I'm happy to be told I'm wrong.
I'm a pragmatist, but I'm also a realist. And this is why I'm so down about what the Russians are doing in Ukraine, because I can never remember, and I'm a bit of a historian, when I was an academic, I can't remember any despot or dictator that was stopped in his tracks by sanctions. In the end of the day, a dictator and a despot, you have to really use force.
Yes.
So that's a real...
Well, he's repeatedly called for the West to implement a no-fly zone, and the West has repeatedly said no.
I know, it's highly sensitive, and of course, the thing that we don't discuss enough in the House of Commons is we are in this new world where the leader of the free world, the United States, has more or less said, we don't want to do that anymore. And there's this tremendous vacuum in world power.